Hello, everybody. Welcome to Guildmaster Gaming. This time we have David Hankins. I did get that right?
Yes, David Hankins.
We were just talking about that beforehand, making sure I got it right. And then as soon as I said your name, I go, did I pronounce that right? With the hard A. Oh, that's a good way to start. So we are here with David, and we are going to talk about several of his books that he's got published. He's now got two novels, a collection of short stories. Behind him, you can see he's got a lot of other short stories. But we're going to start in with this journey from with the novels that we're going to be talking about. So, David, please introduce yourself, and if you would, just give us a brief overview of what Grimm's World is.
Sure. So I write lighthearted fantasy and science fiction because that's what I like to read, and there's not nearly enough humor in the world. So I aim to change that one story at a time. Uh, Grimm's World series starts with Death and the Taxman, which is about the Grim Reaper trapped in an IRS agent's dying body.
Now,
He has to regain his.
I was going to say, now I get a feeling I'm going to kind of jump back on you a little bit here
Yeah.
because I've got, let's see, we'll bring this one up here real quick. We have that.
Ah, yes.
So
Writers of the future. So we'll
that's
start
where it
backwards a little
started.
bit. It started out as an award-winning short story that won Writers of the Future and is in volume 39, which there's my award right there. And that short story was then named Best Science Fiction and Fantasy Short Story of 2023 in the Critters Readers poll. And then I took that short story and I expanded it into the full-length novel of the same name that came out on Tax Day 2024. And so, yeah, like I said, it's about the Grim Reaper trapped in an IRS agent's dying body. And then book two, which is Death and the Dragon, just came out on the last day of the Year of the Dragon in January 28th this year. And so this one is the wild ride through hell that Dante wished he'd had. So, based on some events in Taxman, Grimm goes down to hell to have words with Lucifer and walks right into a coup. So, better the devil you know, right? And so he goes to save Lucifer with some rather dire consequences. And then the third book, Grimm's World Tales. This is a short story collection of origin stories set in the same world, along with one story that is concurrent with Death and the Dragon, that is about a villain character that just kind of disappears for a while, and then they come back, and you're like, what on earth happened to them? Well, Valhalla and cocktails is what happened to them.
So these are a lot of fun things. And like you said, so let's kind of jump back. We'll say it's going back to the writers of the future. Now you were doing some
Hmm.
publishing of short stories before that, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that watch this because I get a lot of writers and they understand what writers of the future is, but there's going to be people
Hmm.
that don't. What would you describe to someone that's going, what's writers of the future about? What would you tell them
Riders
what
of
it
the
is?
Future is the biggest amateur short story contest in the world. So it's judged by big names in the industry like Jody Lynn Nye, Kevin J. Anderson, Brandon Sanderson, and they pick a total of 12 winners every year, three per quarter, and there are thousands of entries every quarter. And so these are the truly fantastic award-winning stories that have risen to the top. And Writers of the Future, they pride themselves on being a platform to launch careers, and it is up to the author to take advantage of that or not. And so there are quite a few people that win Writers of the Future, and then you never hear from them again. There are others that work slowly. They have some stuff come out in the following years, and they get their career going. And then there's others that just skyrocket, and they are New York Times bestsellers and stuff like that. I'm not there yet. I'm trying, but we'll see. Um, and yeah, they have a red carpet gala that a lot of Hollywood type folks have said is a lot like the Oscars of writing. So really, quite a big deal. They've got lots of assets to help you in your writing. They have a free online workshop. They've got a forum where like-minded writers get together and talk about, writing and learning how to get better at writing, which is where I learned a lot of my craft. Actually, through with Wolf Moon, he did a workshop inside the Writers of the Future forum called the Super Secrets Workshop. That was absolutely fantastic. He took all of that, turned it into the book I just held up, and yeah, so all of that I found from Writers of the Future.
Yeah, and they do a big event every year, Superstars. So it's
Hmm.
it's it's a major, major accomplishment to make it in that collection every year
Yeah.
because you only get in there once. That's
There's like three people that made it in twice.
oh, okay.
So they will actually, if they don't, the stories that they get are too short, so that the full volume isn't as heavy as they want, they'll pick a finalist and they'll make them a published finalist.
Okay.
And so that finalist, they get the same red carpet treatment. They're flown out to Hollywood and all of that stuff. They just don't get prize money because they weren't a winner.
Okay.
But they get everything else, which is absolutely fantastic. So one of them, Brittany Rainston, I know she was in two different volumes. I think 37 and 38.
Okay. So you got into 39, and that's where I
Yep.
was first introduced to your work with the short story Death and the Taxman, a fun read, and then you turned it into a full-length novel. So now it's very clear in a lot of ways, like you said, it's Death, the Grim Reaper is caught in a tax IRS tax auditor's body. Where did you come up with this concept to develop that story?
It came from two things coming together at the same time. So first, it was Dave Dave Farland, the former coordinating judge for Writers of the Future. He passed a couple of weeks before I wrote the story, and so the it was very sudden, unexpected, and a lot of people in the writing community just went into mourning expectedly, and I knew people that were trying to write these deep, heartfelt stories to kind of talk about how they were feeling, and my story kept coming out funny. And so the story it came from a prompt from Wolf Moon inside his Super Secrets workshop. The prompt was winning the rigged game. Well, I thought death is the ultimate rigged game. The Grim Reaper always wins. Well, what if he didn't? What if he became human? Would he cling to life as tenaciously as we do? And the story just kind of flew onto the pages from there.
Okay, it's really good. I do remember that time when Dave passed because I had the opportunity. I don't know if you did through that, but I had the opportunity
I
to work
never
with
got
him,
to meet him.
and he was an amazing, amazing person. So
Hmm.
I can see where that could kind of generate all those different emotional things. So then you have this short story, and it wins, it gets in, uh, and then you decide to turn it into a novel. At what point in that process did you go, there's more to this story I've got to tell? Because I mean, not only did it go to a novel length, but now you got a series.
We're looking at a trilogy right now. And so I was probably about halfway through writing the book when I realized, yeah, there's way more here. And I got the idea of doing a kind of a Dante's the Inferno kind of thing. So where Dante goes down to hell, through purgatory, then up to heaven. I was like, well, Death and Taxman is the Grim Reaper in the mortal realm. Then book two, I'll take him down to hell. Book three, he's going to go up to heaven. So book three is Death and the Immortal, which I'm writing right now.
Okay. So I'm taking it that took quite a bit of research, or did you already have the knowledge of
Uh,
Dante's work?
no, I had to get a copy of Dante's Inferno and actually read it, and that was very, very dense. And he clearly did not like a lot of people because he was naming all the names of everyone that was in hell.
Yeah. If you haven't read Dante's Inferno out there, that is one read I think that is probably if you want to be a real solid writer or even kind of understanding so many of these things, it's it's alluded to in so many ways that people never even realize. And
Right.
I
Yep.
I want to compliment you because I am a fan of Dante's Inferno. We used to have a copy of it, and I've read it and everything. And reading through yours, I was like, "That's taken from the poetry." So
Hmm.
I think you did a great job of reflecting what Dante wrote in your works here, especially in
Well,
book
thank
two,
you.
the way it went through.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of,
I really uh that book two is where I really tried to dive into pulling in elements from Dante's Inferno. And in fact, I very blatantly point that out as they're going through.
yep. So there's another aspect of it. You have where hell is a bureaucracy, and I don't think I'm giving anything away there because of the way it sets up. Why a bureaucracy?
Because I have worked in a bureaucracy for my entire career, and bureaucracies are of the devil. Well, actually, I would say bureaucrats are of the devil, and bureaucracies are but poorly furnished reflections of hell. So yeah, it just kind of flowed onto the page because I cannot imagine a worse eternal punishment than being trapped in a job of customer service and having to provide customer service with a smile for eternity. Give me the hot pincers and the boiling oil, please.
So then you tie in some other elements that I think are a lot of fun, not just what we consider the Christian mythologies, our
Hmm.
lore, but you tie in a lot of other mythological creatures throughout all sorts of different areas of around the world.
I did. And that was not intentional when I first started. When I first started, I planned to stay just inside the Christian mythology. But then when I sat down to read Dante's Inferno for the first time, because I'd never actually read it in high school, and so I read it and I went, this is full of Greek mythology. It's like Greek mythology with a little Christianity patina on top of it. And so I was like, okay, I'm free to use whatever I want. And that's where I started pulling in elements from other mythologies and other. I set it up so that there's multiple realms. So you've got, heaven and hell. You also have Valhalla and Mudang and other places like that.
And the fire-breathing rooster. And
Yes, the fire-breathing chicken. Yep, from Japan.
so there's all sorts of fun elements in here. One of them that I think is it's got to be your completely own is the war duck.
The battle ducks. Yes. Uh, it,
There's got to be a story about the development of
there,
the
there
battle
is
duck.
a story about the ducks. So, it actually started. I did not plan this, but I have a bag of these sitting here on my desk. So, my wife bought a bag of little duckies for April Fool's Day a couple of years ago. Put them around the house, and my daughter, who was 9 at the time, she'd find the ducky. Oh, ducky! And she'd go grab the ducky, and then my wife would put another one right in the same spot. My daughter would turn around. "Oh, I just grabbed that duck," and they just kept spawning. Every time she'd turn around, the ducks would come back because my wife just kept placing them. So we had a lot of fun with that. That same day, I had to fly to Germany for work, and I get to the airport, and I'm standing in line. I stick my hands in my pockets. I go, "Oh no!" And I pull out some duckies. And so I found duckies in every single pocket of my check bag and my carry-on. So they went with me to Europe. I took pictures of them everywhere, and I do a lot of social media for my author thing. And so the Lost Bards duckies became part of my social media. So fast forward, I'm writing the book, Death and the Dragon, and I'm trying to figure out, some way to lighten up a scene that's kind of serious. And my brain often goes to, well, every writer's brain should go to, how can it get worse? Because you want to increase tension. How can it get worse? Well, as a humorist, I also ask, how can it get crazier? And I remembered a story from back when my daughter was only 2 years old. We went to a duck pond in the middle of winter. And so it's just snow, water, and the pond was full of ducks. They were overflowing onto the bank, and we're there. We're tossing out bread and hand my daughter, half a piece of bread, and she just charges in to feed the ducks. Well, at 2 years old, they're about the same size she is. And so, yeah, memories were made that day. The ha went to ha rather quickly. And so that story kind of popped into my head, and I was like, yeah, battle ducks. But that's just the way my brain worked. We'll bring in battle ducks into the story, and the way I'd set it up, it was perfectly logical in the rules of the world that battle ducks could exist.
It really was. And it's a fun scene. And I asked that because I heard you tell that at conference, a little bit of those stories. And it's a great element of the backstory of the writing aspects of it all. So that's where we got the first two novels going. We've already talked a little bit. The third one is now taking Death to Heaven and
Right.
completing up the trilogy. So then we have Grimm's World Tales. Uh, so these are all, for the most part, like kind of like origin stories or side
Yep.
stories that are reflected in or told about in the others.
Hmm.
What what started that whole project? Was that just something that started out for you to kind of backstory, or was this actually something that you started doing and going, these are stories I
These
want?
were things that half of them were already published.
Ah, okay.
So, Hell's Bureaucracy was the very first short story I wrote when I first found Writers of the Future. I went through their online course, and I'd had this idea in my head anyway for a while. Again, another story that came from my daughter. And yeah, I wrote that short story. It got an honorable mention in Writers of the Future, and then was published in Unidentified Funny Objects 9, which is edited by Alex Schwartzman. Absolutely fabulous anthologies if you like humor. So anyway, yeah, then I had another one that was published in a Zombies Need Brains anthology, Game On. So that was the Grim Reaper's game. And so I already had some stories, and I wanted to have something extra as I did my Kickstarter for Death and the Dragon. And I thought, well, I can write a couple more stories, and then I've got a little collection that can be something that I can add as well. And I already had cover art because I'd gotten the art for that from the previous Kickstarter for Death and the Taxman. And so it all kind of fell together, and I said, I have a product already. So
Okay. And it's another fun read and kind of I like the way it I will tell you this, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember these, but you might. The collection of Thieves World.
I do not remember
Yeah.
those.
Robert Lynn Aspern and his wife, Lynn Abbey, at a writers' conference one time, started kicking around an idea with friends, and they all created this world called Thieves World. A lot of people know it as Sanctuary, creating
Okay.
short stories using each other's characters.
Hmm.
Uh, it kind of gave me a little bit of feel of that because it was like you had your main story going along, but this was all these little supplementals that broaden out the novel and give it a lot more depth.
Yep.
That you know, like I said in the review that I wrote, it's one of those areas that everybody's kind of asking when you see something on the page going, what is their backstory? What story are they alluding to? Like when Agnes, and so forth.
Hmm.
And you give them to us. And that was a lot of fun to read those that way. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, thank
So
you. Yeah, uh, it was fun. It's kind of a which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Some of the short stories were written before I even thought of the novel, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna pull that character into the novel, and now I have their origin story. And some of it was I was writing the novel and went, I want to explore this a little bit more. Let's see what happens.
yep. And I think you should use the analogy, which came first, the duck or the egg? So
Oh, true, true.
so now as Grim Reaper finishes up this series of three novels, do you see his story continuing, or do you think that's going to be it for him?
It There will probably be more. However, I don't have anything planned at the moment. So I have, plot arc that I'm planning on finishing in book three, a few plot arcs that will finish in book three. And then I plan to turn to a different series for a bit. I'm still kind of hands in the air on which one I'm going to do, whether I go back to the original novels that I wrote before I started doing short stories, which I thought were the next best thing since Heinlein. Agents thought otherwise, and going back and reading them, the agents were right. The first thing you write is not good, but everyone thinks that it's amazing. But I know that there's a really good core to the story. It just has to be rewritten. The prose is not up to par. And so I might go back and rewrite those. It'd be mid-grade fantasy trilogy, which I already have, like I said, 2.5 books already written on it. So the story is already there. I just have to rewrite it. And then I'm also thinking of writing a novel about the Rat War saga. I guess it'd be a series about uplifted rats that take over Chicago, which I had a short story for that one that was in Troubadours and Space Princesses with LTUE anthologies last year.
Okay. Just looking, I do have that on my list of upcoming reviews.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's Milo Piper's breakout single that ended the Rat War.
Ah, okay. That sounds like it's going to be quite a bit fun also. So you got these type areas. So it sounds like you like to keep in the humor. Adult
Absolutely.
to and down in the middle grade is where you were first looking at. So
Hmm.
do you plan on staying in those genres?
I plan on staying in humor, definitely. I have exactly one story that I would qualify as horror that I just haven't advertised very much. It came out, it got published in an anthology, and um, it doesn't fit the rest of my brand, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that story came out. I played a little bit with horror, and um, but yeah, I like adventure stories. I like escapism kind of stories, the things that make you smile because there's enough dark and dismal stuff in the world, and trying to add a little bit of light.
So to get the ideas for your story, you mentioned, Battle Ducks came from the outing with your daughter. Where do you go to get inspiration for writing?
Um, some things come from stories from my life. Like I said, with the Battle Ducks, Hell's Bureaucracy came from a story of I used to tell my daughter when she would ask what did I do at work all day? I was like, I'm a logistician in the army. I sat in front of a computer all day. It's really boring. And so I'd tell her I fought bureaucracy in all its forms. Some days I won, some days I lost, but she thought in her little mind that I was fighting a slathering monster named bureaucracy every day. And so yeah, that turned into a story. Um, and sometimes it comes from prompts, like Death of the Taxman did. Sometimes I'm like I need something, some kind of a kernel of an idea, and I'll just pull some random things together and start writing and see what happens.
Okay.
So I just kind of work with what I get at the moment as I'm trying to come up with ideas.
Okay. When I usually talk to authors, I ask them about some of the habits that they've created that they feel are good habits for helping them to maintain their writing. So, David, what are some of the things that you do that you consider are habits that help you maintain your productive writing schedule?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I don't have a schedule because my life keeps um, getting varied. So I write when and where I can. Sometimes I'm able to write, a whole bunch in one week. I get a bunch of free evenings. Other times I won't be able to write for 1 to 2 weeks just because of life. My day job, up to this point, I've been doing a lot of travel, so I do a bunch of writing in airports and hotel rooms. Um, and so, yeah, I fit it in where I can because I still have to have the day job and pay the mortgage. However, as far as habits that keep me writing, probably the best one that I developed was not to, or to turn off my internal editor as I'm writing. Just get the story down. So as I have an idea and it's flowing, and I go, oh wait, what's the word for that? I know there's that perfect word. Don't go over to thesaurus.com. Leave a little space holder because the ideas are still going. Like my brain's like, and then this happens, then that happens, then that happens. And if I don't catch it, it's gone. So I have to turn off that internal editor. Don't go back and try to fix it, make it right. I can do all that in editing. And in fact, my first draft on my novels is usually pretty ugly. Then I go back and make it look like I did everything on purpose. Because I'll come up with ideas halfway through and go, oh, this is a great thing. And I need to seed little bits in the opening so that, the attentive reader can pick up the clues and go, oh, yeah, yeah, I saw that coming. Um, and so, yeah, I'll, yeah, do a lot of cleanup in the post writing edits.
Clean up in post. Yep.
Yep.
I heard that a lot in the film industry too. We'll clean that up in post.
Hmm.
So a lot of stuff there. Do you ever look at doing anything besides writing to promote your creative talents?
Nope. That writing is really where I feel that my talents lie. I do relatively well on social media, but that's under protest because I have to. Um, I don't feel that I am someone that would like I don't want to go do acting or screenwriting or stuff like that. I'd love for my stuff to get picked up for a movie deal, absolutely. But I want to write short stories and novels in prose fiction.
Okay. So as we're kind of going along, if people want to follow your work, and you've mentioned social media, where can they find you? And under what name?
Best place to find me is at davidhankins.com. That has all of my links for Facebook and Twitter, X, whatever it is now, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky,
All
Amazon,
all the
all of them,
socials.
all the socials. So I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. And if you follow me there, you'll get a lot of very silly memes. That's most of what I post.
That that's to be expected from someone doing comedy, right?
Yes, yes.
So if you're I this has got me because I usually ask people, what got you into the genre? So as a reader, what got you into the genre for comedy?
Terry Pratchett, 100%. So my wife introduced me to Terry Pratchett. I didn't actually read him as a kid. I was deployed to, I think it was Iraq at the time with the army, and she said, "Hey, I found this author, and it's really funny. Check him out." And so I managed to find a digital copy at the library that I could, read while I was gone, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I was like, "Oh, well, there's 41 books in this series? Yes, please." And so, yeah, I just devoured Terry Pratchett. I'm going through the series again right now with all the audiobooks, listening to him as I'm driving back and forth to work. And so, yeah, definitely Terry Pratchett had a huge influence on my humor writing.
Okay, so for all the Pratchett fans out there, who's your favorite Discworld character?
Oh, it's the We Free Men. I do really like Death. Death is fantastic, but the We Free Men make me cackle.
Okay, I'll admit I'm a Granny Weatherwax fan, so
Yeah, see, I like Weatherwax because she is so like deadpan, dry delivery. You're like, was she serious? What? I don't know.
some great stuff there. So that is some really good stuff. Now I know you've been doing some teaching because we've ran into each other now a couple of times at
Mhm.
LTB, Life, the Universe, and Everything that's held in Provo every year. So Are you out and about teaching at other conventions coming up in the near future?
I will be at, let's see, my next,
Oh, we got a freeze.
um, mostly local
Okay.
stuff.
So I will admit we froze up there and all I got was
I thought
local
you froze
stuff.
up there for a second.
We've had
Uh,
some really hard winds here, so I don't know that might have came through on the feed to where it's
oh,
recording.
I'll start
Uh,
again.
okay.
So, my next actual con is going to be WindyCon in Chicago, which is in October, I think. And um, that one's it's a smaller convention, but yeah, I'll definitely be doing some classes and panels on that one. And then next year will probably be LTUE again. My problem is I don't have enough vacation days with my day job to do all the cons, so um, I'm doing a lot of local events because I'm in Iowa right now. So I have actually tomorrow, I'm going to my very first book club ever because I was invited in. The bookstore it picked Death and the Taxman as their book club read, but they want me to introduce it to the book club. And they said, "Ooh, we have a fun idea. We want you to come in, but don't tell anyone you're an author." They gave me the book that they're talking about this month, and so I read it. And so I'm gonna go in, we'll talk about the book, just have a good old time, then say, and for our next month, we're going to read. Well, we'll let David talk about it, and they'll be like, "Hey, we're gonna read my book. It's really fun." So yeah, that's gonna be fun. The and other like small venue type stuff here in the Quad Cities.
Hey, some really good stuff. So one final question is always what I ask people, because like LTUE, it's you get a lot of beginning writers there, so I'm sure you've got been asked this. What advice would you give to a starting writer?
Don't stop. The best measure of success for authors is that they keep writing. So there's going to be things that get in the way. You're going to get discouraged, distracted, whatever it is, and you might have to step away because life is life. But if you want to write, just keep doing it. Writers write, and so. Uh, no matter how you get discouraged, if it's the 98% rejection rate in the short story market, or the even higher rejection rate if you're trying to go traditional and submitting your manuscript to agents, um, it's part of the business. Just keep going. If I think it's 1% of the people who say they're going to write a novel actually write it. 1% of those actually get published, and that's you just got to keep going. So, yeah, my biggest advice is just keep writing, keep going, and you will, by continuing to write, you will improve, and that is what will get you published.
All right. And if I remember correctly, it's next year, 2026 is when we're looking for book three.
Correct. Yep. Death and the Immortal is slated to come out on Day of the Dead in 2026.
Aha, another themed release.
Yes, almost like I planned it.
It's almost like you're in marketing or something. I don't know.
Yeah. As an indie author, I kind of have to be.
Yeah. So when like we were talking with all the other, you're talking traditional, that's got its own issues there
Yep.
too. So
Yep.
my hat's off to you, as you can probably tell, because I usually do wear a hat when I'm out and about, just like you've got one on now. So thank you for joining us, David. And to let everybody else out there, I do have reviews written up on all three of the books, the two novels and the collection of short stories. I'll have those in the notes that you can do it. All of them are available online, or you can reach out and probably through David's site or through mine, you can find those and be able to pick them up and read them. Fun books. They're not hard reads. They're quick reads because not because of their easy or light, but because they do draw you in and they keep you going to find out what's going to happen next. There's and a lot of great characters throughout. I That's one of the things I always enjoy, and there's some great characters. So
Well, thank
along
you.
with that, I'll tell people if you like this, please subscribe and share it out to people you know that would like this type of work. If you want a good humor, a good laugh, make some fun of kind of a reflection on our society in some funny, interesting ways. It's got some great stuff. Any final words you'd like to share with everybody, David?
Just really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. And like you said, Death and Taxman is available everywhere. I did actually just launch my web store, so if you want to buy direct, get an autographed copy, you can do that at
There we go.
davidhankins.com.
All right. Thank you very much. And until we see everybody again, have a great day.
Thank you.